It began on a fog-drenched night in October, when the air in the small town of Ravenshade felt thicker than usual, and the moon hung low like a pale coin above the jagged rooftops. The first report came from an exhausted taxi driver named Howard Pike, who swore that while driving along the forest road near Hollow Creek at around 2:47 a.m. he saw a man standing in the middle of the lane, tall, impossibly thin, wearing a faded black suit and no shoes, his skin almost glowing under the headlights, and his face fixed in a grin so wide it split his cheeks. Howard slammed the brakes, but the man didn't flinch. He simply tilted his head and smiled broader, revealing gums black as tar. When Howard blinked, the man was gone, leaving behind only the faint sound of laughter echoing through the trees. He told the police, but they dismissed it as fatigue. However, 2 days later, a couple returning from a late-night party vanished on the same road, and their car was found in the river, doors open, engine still running. In the mud beside the car, someone had traced a smiley face with a finger. From that night on, the legend of the smiling man began. People whispered of a pale figure seen standing beneath street lamps, always smiling, always watching. Some said he would appear at the edge of your vision when you were alone near the reflection of a window, or behind a flickering light bulb. He never spoke, never moved quickly, he just smiled, until you blinked, and then he was gone. Detective Amelia Greaves was assigned to the case, a pragmatic investigator who didn't believe in the supernatural. She combed through the early reports, searching for logic, a stalker, a deranged killer perhaps. But nothing fit. The descriptions changed slightly each time. Yet the smile was always identical, too wide, too knowing, and filled with a terrible stillness. One night, she drove to the Hollow Creek Road herself, camera ready. The forest loomed like a black ocean, the mist rolling low across the asphalt. At exactly 3:12 a.m., her dashcam flickered, static danced across the screen, and in a single frame, she saw it, a face illuminated in the headlights, smiling. When she froze the video later, the figure's eyes seemed to look directly into the lens, almost alive. She replayed it again and again, but every time she blinked, she swore the grin grew a little wider. That was the first night she dreamed of him. In her dreams, he stood at the foot of her bed, smiling, his neck craned at an impossible angle, his body motionless. When she awoke, her reflection in the mirror behind her bed seemed to move slower than her real body, and for a fraction of a second, her reflection smiled before she did. Over the following weeks, the town descended into quiet panic. People stopped walking alone at night. Windows were shuttered. There were reports of laughter echoing through the drains, of faces grinning from puddles, of people vanishing mid-sentence during video calls, their final moments frozen with a smile. The media got hold of it, dubbing it the unsolved case of the smiling man. Reddit threads exploded with theories that he was a demonic entity feeding off fear, a ghost of someone who died smiling, a government experiment gone wrong. Some said that once you saw his face, he marked you, and sooner or later, you'd smile too. The local police denied supernatural claims. But the evidence piled up, distorted footage, phone calls filled with eerie chuckles, and handprints found pressed into glass from the inside. Detective Greaves kept working, though her colleagues noticed her growing pale and withdrawn. She complained of static in her ears, whispers behind her, and a sensation of being watched from dark corners, her notebooks filled with sketches of that same impossible grin. Then came the night she disappeared. The timestamp on her final body cam recording read 2:59 a.m. She was in her apartment, reviewing evidence, when she turned to the window and there he was, standing on the opposite roof, smiling. The recording showed her moving toward the window, whispering, "Who are you?" Then the audio filled with a deep guttural laugh that distorted the mic. The camera fell, showing only her feet as she backed away, and for 2 minutes, the footage was filled with nothing but a low humming sound until, suddenly, her reflection in the glass door smiled, even though she wasn't. When her apartment was found, the walls were covered in drawings of smiling faces, each one more twisted than the last, and written in charcoal on her mirror was a message: "He smiles because he knows." Her body was never recovered. Weeks later, a journalist named Peter Holbrook picked up the story for an online documentary. He traveled to Ravenshade, interviewing survivors and witnesses. The fear was palpable. An old woman told him she'd seen the smiling man in her living room, not as a figure, but as a shadow when no light fell, smiling with teeth she couldn't count. A child said he visited her in her dreams, whispering, "If you smile back, you stay." Peter laughed it off until he began to see smiles in unexpected places, in the steam on his bathroom mirror, in the frost on his car window, in the reflection of his own camera lens. He documented every sighting. His final recording was a live stream, still archived online, titled Finding the Smiling Man, Final Episode. In it, Peter sits alone in a motel room at 3 a.m., face pale, trembling. He says, "I think he's here. I don't see him, but I feel it. That grin, it's everywhere. I don't think he wants me to stop." Then, without warning, the lights flicker, and behind him, the mirror distorts. A grin appears, stretching wider until it spans the entire reflection. Peter turns, gasps, and the stream cuts to black. The next morning, the motel staff found the room empty. The only thing left was his camera, recording static, and a single phrase written on the wall in something that looked like ash. "Smile with me." Since then, sightings of the smiling man have spread beyond Ravenshade. People across the country claim to see him standing by highways, staring through windows, or appearing for just one frame in surveillance footage. Some claim he travels through screens, that every time his story is told, every time someone watches, he gets stronger, his grin reaching through the glass to find new eyes. Forums warn, if you stare too long at his image, you'll dream of him that night. You'll wake up with a faint smile on your lips that you don't remember making. A few paranormal investigators who tried to summon him for YouTube content vanished mid-recording, leaving behind frozen footage of their grinning faces. Police chalked it up to hoaxes or foul play, but deep in the archives, Detective Greaves's corrupted files were found and decrypted. The final frame showed a reflection of her standing in a dark room, smiling, while behind her, hundreds of shadowy figures grinned back. No one could explain it. Experts noted that the reflection appeared to have moved first. Today, the unsolved case of the smiling man remains one of the internet's most disturbing mysteries. Some treat it as a myth. Others believe it's a curse that travels through stories, infecting those who read or hear it. A few even claim that writing about him invites him closer, that as you read this, you may feel a strange urge to glance at the nearest reflective surface. You'll think you saw something, just a flicker, a shape, and you'll tell yourself it's imagination. But late tonight, when the lights are dim and your reflection looks back a second too long, you might notice the faintest curl of lips that aren't quite yours. And if you ever wake up to laughter that doesn't fade, to whispers saying, "Don't forget to smile, don't look around, don't search the shadows," because once you see him, truly see him, he never leaves, he just waits, watching, grinning, forever smiling at the fear that feeds him.